story of Kennedy and Trump has changed the course of history forever. August 23rd, 2024 will forever be known as the day we turned the corner and took back our great nation and changed the course of history and brought hope to a free world. Join me as we relive the strange relationship between Kennedy and Trump, leading to their return to the White House to make America healthy and great again. I spent 2 years following the Kennedy and Trump campaigns. Long before the two men ever considered running for president, Kennedy sued Trump and stopped him from building a golf course near the Hudson River. After Trump won the presidency in 2016, he recruited Kennedy to look into vaccine safety issues. Kennedy was forced out the door after clashing with a man by the name of Anthony Fauci. But the assassination attempt on President Trump's life brought Kennedy and Trump closer than ever. From rivals to collaborators, from foes to friends, this is the story of Kennedy and Trump. You can download the book for free right now by going to kennedy&trump.com. That's kennedy&trump.com. My name is Greg Fernandez Jr. God bless you all. All right, welcome everyone.
Okay.
Let me just stop this right here. I'm going to get into this. I picked up this book the other day, Charlie Kirk biography, by Christina W. Randall. I picked this up on Amazon, good price, $15, I believe. This was published recently in I believe February of 2025, so just a few months before the tragic death, murder, assassination, political assassination of Charlie Kirk, a great American and a strong Christian man. Most of all, most important, a strong Christian man. That's what we need in this world, is strong Christian men, strong Christian women, strong Christians. And it's not an easy task. And the worst thing that could happen is that a tragedy like this stops people from speaking out. It discourages them. Even in my state where I'm at now, there's going to be a vigil, a rally coming up here tomorrow evening. So I may actually go live and try to cover a little bit of that if I can. So hopefully they're going to do it right after I get off work, which would be great. But I think this is going to be a good opportunity for the world to learn a lot more about Charlie Kirk. For people that don't know that much about Charlie Kirk or haven't followed him that much like me, I knew who the guy was. I'm a big Kirk Cameron fan, obviously, so I had watched the interview that Kirk Cameron did with Charlie Kirk, that Charlie Kirk did with Kirk Cameron. I did not realize the extent to which Charlie Kirk was actually a big part of brokering the deal between MAGA and MAHA. So I will cover that a little bit as RFK Jr. tells that story that I've never heard before. And the interview, I can't find the full interview of it. It's just this little clip of it. So maybe the interview is not actually out there. And maybe somebody can help me actually find if the full interview is out there right now. Because we know that RFK Jr. spoke at the vigil. And then RFK Jr. also spoke on the Charlie Kirk podcast, the Charlie Kirk show with JD Vance yesterday. So cover that. But I figured I'd read a little bit about Charlie Kirk here, the biography. Just the introduction. Again, this is a book you can get on Amazon right now by Christina W. Randall, and I'm just starting to read this. So I figured I'd read a little bit here while I'm here. Charlie Kirk is a prominent conservative political commentator, activist, and founder of Turning Point USA, TPUSA, a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting free market principles, individual liberties, and conservative values among young people, especially college students. Born on October 14, 1993, in the suburbs of Chicago, Illinois, Kirk's rise to national prominence in American politics has been swift and significant. His combination of youthful energy, articulate speaking, and strong media presence has made him a recognizable figure in the conservative movement. From a young age, Kirk was immersed in conservative ideology. He grew up in an environment that encouraged critical thinking about government and the economy, which eventually laid the groundwork for his future activism. His early political involvement and interest in the American right wing came to the forefront during his high school and college years. While many young people are still trying to figure out their values and political leanings, Kirk was already setting the stage for what would become a major influence on young conservative discourse. Kirk's most notable achievement has been the creation of Turning Point USA, an organization he founded in 2012 at the age of 18. The organization's mission is to educate, engage, and empower young people to advocate for conservative ideals, particularly on college campuses where liberal ideologies often dominate. TPUSA's slogan, "We are the voice of the next generation," reflects Kirk's focus on inspiring young people to become political activists, a project that has seen immense growth since its founding. Under his leadership, TPUSA has expanded into a nationwide network, providing resources, organizing events, and creating media content aimed at encouraging young conservatives to stand up for their beliefs. So, just a little bit of the introduction. The chapters, there's about 9 chapters in here. This thing is pretty short. Hopefully, I was going to read it over the weekend, last weekend, and hopefully this weekend I'll be able to read it over this weekend. But it's a brand new book that just came out. Of course, I'm always looking for some Kennedy and Trump references. I definitely see some Trump ones. Don't see any Kennedy ones yet here, but definitely worth checking out if you're looking for a book to read right now. Please consider that one. Once again, this is Charlie Kirk biography, written by Christina W. Randall. Pretty simple read. I look forward to reading it, learning more about Charlie Kirk, an amazing human being. Okay, next I wanted to play a little bit of RFK Jr. speaking about Charlie Kirk. And again, I don't know where this is from. I cannot find the actual source of this video. It's new. It just came out 17 hours ago, but I would love to see the whole video in proper context. This is posted on Secretary Kennedy's X or Twitter account. It's about 1 minute and 25 seconds. Very powerful. I'm going to play this here.
One of my little brothers, David, was killed. I was with his body alone with my mother. And I said to her, does the hole that they leave in you when one of your loved ones dies, does it ever get any smaller? And she said to me, it never gets smaller. But our job is to grow ourselves bigger around the hole. And we do that by taking the best virtues and the most admirable character traits from the person that we lost and trying to integrate them into our own lives. And doing that, we provide them with a kind of immortality because they're living in us their best virtues. But also we make ourselves into bigger persons and the whole gets proportionally smaller. Charlie was a target-rich environment for virtue and for character traits. His devotion, his piety, his devotion to God, his devotion to this country, his affection for this country, his devotion for the Constitution. And, I think he left us all with kind of a directive that we need to amplify that now that he's gone so that he doesn't really leave us. But his legacy is our efforts.
So there, that was a very powerful 1.5 minute. I thought a very powerful 1.5 minutes with Secretary Kennedy. And again, this just came out, so I don't know where this is from or where you can watch the whole thing, if you can watch the whole thing. But I was very, very moved by it. Very moved by it, and I want to play a little bit of this.
Understood what buttons needed to be pushed to move.
So this is from RFK Jr. was a part of the Charlie Kirk show yesterday with JD Vance leading the way. So I'm gonna get rid of that. Play a little bit of this. I have not seen the whole interview with RFK Jr., but I do
He
want to.
understood the use of power, and he understood what buttons needed to be pushed to move the ball across the goal line. So he was very good on that. But so he was a pragmatist, but he was also one of the most idealistic people that I've ever met.
He was.
And his principal preoccupation was with conversation. He thought conversation was the only thing that could heal our country. We have all these forces, and particularly the algorithms now in social media, that are driving us apart. And it's inexorable. There seems to be nothing that could stop it. And he understood that the only thing that could bridge that gap was debate, was open debate, and that censorship was the enemy of that. And that in order to have real conversations, we had to end the vitriol. We had to stop being poisonous toward each other. We need to say what we mean without saying it mean.
Yes.
And he was just amazing. He was so respectful of the people who disagreed with him. He gave them the most respect and the greatest hearing. He wanted their voices to be heard. I saw on one of the networks just now that there's this big revolt against social media because of their contribution to the polarization that ultimately led to his death, this brewing up of hatred. Ironically, I think Charlie would revolt against that.
Yes.
Because he hated censorship.
Yes.
What he said is the answer is conversation and dialogue. And we need to learn to do that if our democracy is going to survive. If we're going to survive, we need to talk to each other, even though all these things are telling us not to.
Such a great point there by RFK Jr., I think, is that, and I was thinking about this too, how would Charlie Kirk want people to react to the canceling, to the firings and all of this? And I'm very curious. It's kind of a double-edged sword here, because you think, or you say, we know that people have freedom of speech to say whatever they want, and that should include violent speech. I would think it should. But at the same time, the job has the freedom to fire somebody for that too. So just because you can use your free speech, it's creating this new question that really does make me kind of think, well, yeah, how would Charlie feel about that? How would Mr. Kirk feel about that with what is happening now? And maybe, again, he'd be okay with it. He'd be okay with somebody celebrating somebody's death. And then at the same time, he'd probably be okay with somebody being fired for it too, because that's the employer's right too. So I think it's already up to a couple thousand people that have already been fired for what they've been saying about Charlie Kirk. But it does bring up a free speech issue. A critical thing in this country is free speech. And once we start limiting that free speech, it becomes a very dangerous area. So I don't know. I don't have the answer, but it's definitely on my mind. It's a big thing that is on my mind, weighing on my heart, because seeing both sides and seeing that people celebrate for that is one thing. The response has been amazing by the great Americans, by the great companies, by the people who are just fed up with this nonsense. So you should not be advocating violence, but it brings up that free speech issue. So I don't know. I'm curious to hear people's thoughts on that, because I've been going back and forth. So to hear RFK Jr. say that, he would not want, Charlie Kirk would probably not want to see all these people being canceled. It's pretty interesting, and it makes sense. He would want people to engage, to talk about this. But we all have the right. It's like if you're sitting at a park bench and somebody comes up and starts ranting and raving, you have the right to get up and leave, right? I don't have to sit there and take it. If somebody makes a comment and we're going back and forth on social media, I don't have to sit there and take it. I can block that person. So when people talk about being harassed on social media, it also, to me, brought that up too. Well, can't you just block them? But then they create a fake profile, or they may even create a fake profile act where they act like they're you. We're at that point now too. We're in the digital age where they could create an AI generated video that makes it sound like it's really you saying something that you would never really say. And who would know? Who would know? Especially if you have that person blocked. How would you ever know? So we're getting into some dark, dangerous waters when we talk about free speech. But I did listen to a little bit of Kash Patel's congressional hearing thing that is happening right now, his oversight hearing, and it was actually pretty good. I think the Minnesota senator and Cash had a really good back and forth. So I'm sure be able to find some of those clips at some point on Fox News and everywhere else. But I thought that that was a very powerful one by RFK Jr. and a very, again, it's the free speech thing. So, but I do love it where he says, Charlie Kirk told him, say what we mean without saying it mean. This goes back to the whole thing where Charlie Kirk is not about hatred. He's not about hatred, not about racism or violence or anything. It's about the discussion. And it is about his views, which I'm closely aligned with him in a lot of his views. The more that I learn about him, the more that I read about him, the more that I've seen, it seems like I would be really aligned with a lot, if not all, of Charlie Kirk's views. Maybe not all, because nobody's going to be aligned with everyone's views, but I would definitely be aligned with a lot of Charlie Kirk's views on a lot of different topics, very sensitive topics. It doesn't mean that it's hatred. You know, when we say the Bible is true, and you think that that is hate speech, you can call it whatever you want. That's your freedom of speech. It doesn't make it true, and it doesn't make you right. Calling Charlie Kirk a Nazi or calling Trump a Nazi, like, do you know what a Nazi is? Do you know what a Nazi has done? Comparing them to Hitler, how many people has Trump killed? How many people has Charlie Kirk killed? How many people has Hitler killed or ordered to be killed? So the comparisons are crazy, but the fact that people are buying in to think that there is some justification in those comparisons just makes them even crazier. Crazier than, I don't know, maybe crazier than Hitler, possibly, but definitely crazy. Not very sane, not very intelligent. So out of every tragedy, out of everything bad, we will see some good things come out. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. The darkness never wins. The darkness just runs and hides constantly, continually. So, oh, here's the one that I was looking for. Good. I'm glad RFK Jr. is playing a lot of these in little short clips. I do want to listen to the whole thing, but or watch the whole thing. But it's time. It's time, and so this will be definitely a big part of the sequel that I'm writing, Kennedy and Trump Part 2, not to be released until 2028.
To talk to me just a little bit about Charlie's influence and actually politically getting you to be the H&HS secretary, because I remember he was such a strong advocate for you. He was so proud of the president and of you when the president nominated you. Obviously, like all of our big nominees, there was a tough confirmation fight. Just give us 50 seconds on how important he was to making you have the position and the title you have right now.
Well, what the transition is like. You never kind of know what's going to happen. And he was a critical ally for me in calling President Trump. And at first, when President Trump asked me whether I wanted this job, I was tentative. I didn't know whether I wanted to handle Medicaid and Medicare portion, which is the biggest economic behemoth.
Sure.
And he really persuaded me that I should do it. And then he helped me not only making calls to the president himself, but telling me people that I should call. Operating strategically, but
he was strategically brilliant, and he was a good political operator in a way that I think so many people don't realize.
Yeah, he was. He was an impresario strategist, and he knew exactly. He did the same thing with Amaryllis. He told her, make this phone call, make this phone call, make this one first, this one second.
Yep.
And he knew exactly. He knew he understood the use of power, and he understood what buttons needed to be pushed to move the ball across the goal line.
Very cool. Yeah, I did not know a lot of that. I'm just sitting here kind of in shock and awe a little bit to know that Kennedy was a little hesitant. I would have thought he would have jumped at that, but thankfully Charlie Kirk was able to kind of ease some of Kennedy's worries and tensions and get that thing done. That was amazing. Okay. So we do have, he's posted the full vigil, his speech, about 9 minutes, 10 minutes long. I do want to eventually play that. I found it in a couple different places too. It was another very powerful moment. There's been so many powerful moments, but I wanted to play a little bit of this one here. I don't know if I should. I'm kind of hesitant because I don't know if I'm going to get a strike or anything like that for it. Kash Patel is live right now, and that was really good. But I'm going to play a few minutes of this. We'll see what happens here.
America's Voice. Hello. For those of you listening on our podcast feed, this is our instant analysis from an amazing rally here brought to you by Turning Point Action and Turning Point PAC. President Donald Trump gave one of the best speeches I've heard him give in some time. But the big news is that Bobby Kennedy Jr. has now officially endorsed Donald Trump. Let me say a word about Bobby Kennedy. I have such great respect for him. I've known Bobby for a little while. I followed him originally on his COVID skepticism, talking about why are we masking our kids? The truth about Dr. Anthony Fauci is objectively one of the best books out there. And Robert Kennedy Jr. has been an advocate for truth against these major power institutions, the FDA, the CDC, the Department of Justice. He's been a crusader. They tried to put Bobby Kennedy in a box for years. They try to put him out in the hinterlands. They try to make him seem as if he's irrelevant, and they call him all these terrible names. Bobby Kennedy first wanted to run as a Democrat. I want you to remember, Bobby Kennedy Jr. is the son of Bobby Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy was the brother of John F. K. Bobby Kennedy was the attorney general under JFK. Bobby Kennedy was shot, I believe it was Saran, right? That killed him? Yeah, Saran's in the back of a kitchen after JFK was shot. So Bobby Kennedy's father was murdered. Imagine being Bobby Kennedy, and you remember the last time you saw your father, and then boom, he gets shot. Bobby Kennedy Jr. is very similar to President Trump, because Bobby Kennedy was part of Camelot, the namesake of Bobby Kennedy, and he is a class traitor. Bobby Kennedy decided to leave the comfort of the high life of Massachusetts. What's the town of Massachusetts they call it? Not Martha's Vineyard. No, Kennebunkport's in Maine. Look it up. It's very important. They decided to leave the comfort in Massachusetts of the high life of the trust fund of Joseph P. Kennedy that was left for him and decide to advocate for truth in government and challenging corporate power. Bobby Kennedy has always been a Democrat. So last year, he decided to run for the presidency in the Democrat Party. Instead of welcoming a Kennedy into their ranks, what is it? Hyannisport, thank you. Instead of welcoming Bobby Kennedy into the race, the party that JFK largely invigorated after Republican control of Dwight D. Eisenhower, they decided to kick him out, not allow him on the debate stage. They decided to do everything they possibly could to try and tar and feather him. He realized, Bobby Kennedy, that he did not have a path forward in the Democrat primary. Despite all this, he said, I'm still going to run for the president as an independent candidate. Running for the presidency as an independent candidate, he was then met with the same sort of obstacles by Democrat secretaries of state, by Democrats that were in charge, Democrat attorneys general that were not allowing him to actually get on the ballot and not allowing him to run an independent campaign. When we had Bobby Kennedy back on our show back in December, he was a gentleman. He was a really man of high character. We didn't agree on everything, but Bobby Kennedy and I agreed on challenging corporate power and ending the Ukraine war and giving a voice to the voiceless and rebuilding the American middle class. I remember saying to him privately, I don't think that you're a Democrat. I think you're an old Democrat, and you are now an American patriot where labels will not apply. Bobby Kennedy had a decision to make this last summer. The decision that he made, can you turn that down, Andrew? The decision that he made this last summer was that if I was going to be a spoiler candidate, I will not hand the presidency to, at the time, Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. We were in a period of time and in a situation where Kamala Harris got a little bit of a surge and Bobby Kennedy was left with a decision. And that decision that he made was about putting the country above party. The decision that Bobby Kennedy made was aligning with somebody that they have a lot of disagreements. President Trump and Bobby Kennedy don't agree on everything, but they agree on the big stuff. They agree that America's a great country. They agree on the fundamental core values that have made this the greatest country ever to exist in the history of the world. So therefore, Bobby Kennedy decided to endorse Donald Trump with a full endorsement today. It's an endorsement about the reclamation of citizen government. It's a endorsement.
Look at how fired up Charlie Kirk is for this. This is a big deal here. This is a big time, a major turning point in 2024, a major turning point in our country, in the future of our country, to bring the two MAGA and Maha powers together to join forces here. And I just love how fired up Charlie Kirk is. Only 4 minutes.
Working men and people of this country to end the Ukraine war, to also get healthy food again. I loved when Bobby Kennedy was talking about how our food supply has been poisoned, or how we're being contaminated by our corporations. His family has also come after him significantly. Andrew has the tweet here I can read. His family has attacked him, and he has withstood major opposition. Bobby Kennedy is a man of utmost integrity, for the first Kennedy to ever endorse a Republican. As I said in my remarks, this summer we've seen an indictment. This summer we saw a conviction. This summer we saw a president get shot. We saw a new candidate, 2 conventions, and a Kennedy endorsing a Republican. Let me read this letter here. Bobby Kennedy, this was his siblings and his family members: Kathleen Kennedy, Courtney Kennedy, Carrie Kennedy, Chris Kennedy, Roy Kennedy. We want an America filled with hope and bound together by a shared vision of a brighter future, a future defined by individual freedom, economic promise, and national pride. We believe in Harrison Walls. Our brother Bobby's decision to endorse Trump today is a betrayal of the values that our father and our family hold most dear. It is sad ending to a sad story. Look, let me tell you right now that Bobby Kennedy stood up against his trust fund baby brothers and sisters and said, I care more about the country than I care about the feelings of my siblings. He is a free thinker. He's a free thinker when it comes to vaccines, when it comes to pharmaceutical companies, when it comes to war. RFK Jr. laid out the reasons why the Harris Walls ticket must be stopped, to protect freedom of speech and put a stop to deep state censorship and lawfare. Bobby Kennedy was on a list. Did you know this? Bobby Kennedy was on a list of 12 people by the CDC and the FDA during COVID as being a misinformation spreader.
Yeah,
and the point,
very powerful. I'm just doing so well. I don't want to get a strike or anything. I will come back to that. I'll play a little bit more too. I'm getting a little greedy there. I don't know. The other day I tried to play the Kirk Cameron interview with Charlie Kirk, and that got wiped. So I want to be very careful. But I do want to play. This is a tribute. This is from the White House page, the White House website, or I can't even get it right. The White House YouTube channel.
Only in America is it possible to say, you know what, I don't like the way the country is going, and to do something about it. Take that risk. Take that leap of faith. Stay involved. Trust God and act obediently. Romans 12:2 verse. That God will use all things for good for those who love him. It's bigger than you. I want you to remember that. It is bigger than you. It's bigger than me. You are here to make somebody else's life better, the pursuit of liberty and freedom. You know what gives me strength? The hundreds of thousands of you that say, Charlie, keep going.
1 Corinthians 5 and 15. So that's all pretty amazing evidence, not just intra-biblical evidence, but extra-biblical evidence that Jesus Christ was a real person. He lived a perfect life. He was crucified, died, and rose on the 3rd day, and he is Lord and God alone.
Amen. What a very powerful tribute there on the White House, the White House YouTube channel. Very, very powerful. As we learn more about Charlie Kirk's death and all of that craziness, Yeah, it's gonna be hard to go back for people to relive it. And I didn't even know the guy. I wasn't even close. I can only imagine, what that must be like for the family and even for the friends. Just for anyone that looked up to him or saw him as a light in the darkness, in the shadows of light. Always shine through. Always, my friends. I'll play a little more here.
Pointless forever war in Ukraine. Bobby Kennedy said, if
Kinda
I endorse Donald Trump just over this single issue, it would be worth it. Joe Biden, previously, and Kamala Harris now, they want no end to the war in Ukraine. They're not trying to seek peace. They only care about warmongering because Putin is bad. Bring manufacturing back to America and halt deindustrialization. This is a core, previously Democrat-held value that if we do not make stuff in this country, if we do not protect the muscular class in this country, you end up not having a country. Protecting the dollar. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the entire Democrat Party, they've done everything they can to strengthen BRICS, and we've seen the massive de-dollarization of this country and restoring America's good health. Andrew will tell you, I could go on at length about this, about how we are being polluted, about how our kids are getting into poverty at younger ages, about how childhood obesity is a crisis. Do you know that half of all kids are obese in this country and only 3% of kids in Japan are obese? How is that possible? It's not because people aren't moving as much. It's because people are being poisoned by the major food companies. And to eat healthy, it requires a lot of money. To go to Whole Foods, go to Sprouts, to eat in a healthy way, we are being actively poisoned by the big food companies. He talked about Cassie and Callie Means, who had a great podcast with Tucker Carlson, talking about how we, as the American consumer, every single day are seeing screwed up hormones, higher estrogen rates, declining testosterone rates. Our endocrinology is all screwed up because we are consuming contaminants from how we grow our food, how we source our food. This is a passion project of Bobby Kennedy. And I'm happy to announce, I hung out with Bobby Kennedy at quite some time backstage. We are going to be bringing Bobby Kennedy on tour in these states to talk about food safety in Scottsdale, talk about food safety in Georgia. And Alex Clark will love this, by the way, talking about ethical sourcing of food and why Donald Trump is the right candidate for that. And finally, Bobby Kennedy also mentioned in his speech that he agrees with President Trump on securing our southern border. What you saw here is not Republican or Democrat, conservative or liberal. It is citizen versus the oligarch. It is the people against the machine. Bobby Kennedy says this, in the nature and the name of saving democracy, the Democrat Party set itself to dismantling it. Lacking confidence that its candidate could win in a fair election at the voting booth, the DNC waged continual legal warfare against both President Trump and myself.
That's true.
They have more in common than people would ever lead you to believe. RFK destroys the modern Democrat Party by saying, quote, the Democrat Party has become the party of war, censorship, corruption, big pharma, big tech, and big money. Boy, let's go through those one at a time. War, the Ukraine war and the Israeli war. The Democrat Party is the party of the war manufacturers. Censorship. When the Democrat Party comes across ideas they don't like, they don't try to debate them. They don't try to disprove them. They try to shut you up. Corruption. Kamala Harris is being bought by donors right now. Donald Trump and RFK cannot be bought. Big pharma. Look at how Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson have purchased the American healthcare system. Not to mention that the Danish company that makes Ozempic is now trying to get Ozempic on the Medicare schedule. That would be a $3 trillion boost to this pharmaceutical manufacturer and not getting to the actual core cause of obesity in this country. Big tech, all the biggest tech companies are behind Kamala Harris and her campaign. And finally, big money. The wealthiest people in this country, absent Elon Musk, mind you, are behind Kamala and behind her agenda and behind what she's trying to do to this country. What we see today is the courage of Bobby Kennedy. The art of the deal is on full display. President Trump willing to strike a deal with Bobby Kennedy. He could be a major asset to this campaign. Why? He is a lifelong Democrat. He is a card-carrying Democrat that has now embraced Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. And I also will say this. I think Bobby Kennedy will be encouraged by how well he's been treated by the rank and file, by how well he's been treated by those of us that follow him and appreciate him and understand him. I want to close with this, which is that as we go closer to this election, look at the list. We have Tulsi Gabbard, the former co-chair of the DNC, Bobby Kennedy, the namesake of Bobby Kennedy, who got shot. We have Elon Musk, former Democrat, world's richest man. We have an unbelievable David Sachs. We have a crazy, amazing roster of game changers, of change makers. and they have Adam Kinzinger. Wow. I'll take Elon Musk, Tulsi Gabbard, and Bobby Kennedy over Adam Kinzinger every day.
Absolutely.
And President Trump also announced that if elected in RFK's honor, he will establish an independent commission on assassinations to release all remaining documents on the Kennedy assassination. This is a way to also finally win over suburban women that know their kids are being contaminated, that know that kids are obese. To give you that are obese, to give you some idea, in Arizona, Bobby Kennedy was polling between 5 or 6%. This could translate between 40 to 60,000 guaranteed votes. 40 to 60,000 guaranteed votes for President Donald Trump. So I have to now go address all of our staff here. I just want to say that this is a triumph. This is an amazing victory. This is totally something that will change the fate of the race. We are ascendant. We are growing. Whose convention was this week again? It's hard to remember. There was something that happened in Chicago, but what happened in Glendale is far more consequential, far more meaningful, far more encouraging for our movement than some circus in Chicago with a bunch of actors and actresses lying to the American people. This was real. And this is a Kennedy embracing the American agenda. God bless you guys, and become a member today, members.charliekirk.com. We'll be back with more on Monday.
Very good. He had it, man. He has it. There's a powerful quote I saw yesterday where somebody said, when a Christian dies, they don't really die. They just change their address. They're in heaven. You never truly die. But this was a monumental, and these are notebooks that I use to write the books that I've been writing here. Monumental day. These are actually really cool books. If you're looking for some notebooks, you may want to check this company out. See if I can get this right. It is Blue Wolf Journals and Books, and they have some awesome. I don't know if you have that QR code scanner or if that'll work on here, but they have some amazing notebooks, and I've been using this because I love to write out the book first. Always do it longhand. Then you got your first draft there. By the time you get to your fourth or fifth draft, then you're already ready. So this was it's a great day. MAGA and Maha. I know it's mirrored, so it probably looks a little backwards, but I think you get the point. A big turning point was that day in Glendale, Arizona, August 23rd, 2024. Very powerful day for this world. And we are still seeing, we're only 9 months in to the new Trump administration, to 47. We're only 9 months in here. We got a long way to go, but a lot has already been done, and we're going to see a lot more being done as the days progress and as time moves on. So I did want to play a little bit more. I mean, there's so much that could be played, I guess, because there's so much happening right now. This was good I like Dr. Drew talking about, Dr. Drew reveals how kids are radicalized through the dark web. Thought that was really good. This online confession, I saw some of that, but it's more, that's still gonna be tough. They're going through a lot of the Discord users, but we're seeing a lot of people getting fired. Employer that fired staff for mocking Charlie Kirk's death. But stuff is just going to make you angry. So I don't know if it's really worth playing or if it's good to play a lot of that stuff. On the 5, Kirk's suspected assassin comes under microscope. That was good, especially the exchange between Craig Gutfeld and Jessica Tarloff, or whatever her name is. She's just a horrible, nasty person. So I don't know if I even want to play any of that. Maybe that will do it. I'll play a little bit of the tribute here. RFK Jr. got some raised some eyebrows apparently for what he said, but I thought it was another amazing thing. So I'll read some of this, or not read some of this, I'll play some of it.
Now joining us, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Yesterday, my 17-year-old niece left for Europe to go to college. And while she was packing, her mother, Amaryllis, my daughter-in-law, noticed that she had put a Bible in her suitcase. And Amaryllis was curious about it. And she asked her, and
one of the most difficult things is showing plans on a laptop or a small screen, because you have to zoom in so much that a lot of the details on the rest of the page are lost. So now when you look at a plan, put it.
So he said to her, I want to live like Charlie Kirk.
Find another thing. I'm going to find another one because I do not want to deal with that for the whole show here. That would be too much.
Yesterday, my 17-year-old niece left for Europe to go to college. And while she was packing, her mother, Amaryllis, my daughter-in-law, noticed that she had put a Bible in her suitcase. And Amaryllis was curious about it. And she asked her, and so he said to her, I want to live like Charlie Kirk. There are millions and millions of kids around the country who he inspired, who now want to live with Charlie Kirk. And that's a great thing for our country. I met Charlie for the first time in July of 2001. I went on his podcast, and I think we approached each other with a lot of trepidation at that time, but by the end of the podcast, we were soulmates, we were spiritual brothers, and we were friends. And over the next couple of years, our friendship blossomed. He ended up being the primary architect of my unification with President Trump, which I did my endorsement at his rally, at the Turning Point rally in Scottsdale. And he was the one who put the sparklers on the stage when I showed that. He made a big show of it. But the overarching mission of Charlie Kirk was Jesus, but also free speech, and he saw them as intertwined. He thought conversation was the only way we were going to heal our country. We had to learn to talk to each other without vitriol, without poison, without anger. We had to be able to listen to ideas. We had to be able to say what we mean without being mean, and to talk to each other across this divide. It's the only way. And the polarization that's driven now by these algorithms and by all these other forces in our society. And that first conversation with him that I had, we talked a lot, we had a wide range of conversation. We talked mainly about the First Amendment. We talked about the fact that our founders put freedom of speech in the First Amendment because all the other rights are dependent on it. A government that can silence its opponents has license for any kind of atrocity. And we were specifically talking about what happened during the pandemic. Once the government figured out that we would put up with the censorship, and they went after the entire Constitution. And immediately, they immediately took away our right to assembly, the First Amendment right with social distancing regulations. They shut down the First Amendment right to worship by closing all of our churches for almost a year and keeping the liquor stores open as essential businesses. They went after our Fifth Amendment right to our property rights. They closed down 3.5 businesses with no due process, no just compensation. They went after our Seventh Amendment right to jury trials by making whole categories of businesses that we could no longer sue, no matter what they did to us. They went after the Fourth Amendment right, protection against unwarranted searches and seizures, with all these social distancing regulations that made us have to produce our medical records before we went to a public building or an airplane or enjoyed other constitutional rights. And Charlie, more than any figure in our country, led the resistance that has restored freedom of speech to this country. And he built this movement, which is going to make sure that that never, ever happens again. When my brother David died, I had a conversation with my mother, who had been through more than her share of loss and tragedy. And I asked her, does the hole that they leave in you when they die, does it ever get any smaller? And she said, no, it never gets any smaller. But our job is to build ourselves bigger around the hole. We do that. We do that by taking the best virtues and character traits of the person that we lost and using discipline and restraint and practice, integrating those character traits into our own character. And in doing that, we make ourselves larger and the whole gets proportionally smaller. And we also give that person a kind of immortality because they are now living on, the best parts of them are now living on in us. In one of my conversations, and Charlie was a target-rich environment for virtues. We can all think of something extraordinary he did, his love of family, his love of God, his love of freedom of speech, his reverence for this country, his belief that we are an exemplary nation. We are unique in history. We're the only nation with this kind of constitution. In Europe, they don't have free speech anymore. We have it here, and we are the beacon for humanity for the rest of the world. And all of those, visions, his vision, his mission to preserve those things, his kindness in talking to people with whom he disagreed, are all things that we need to learn and we need to integrate into our own lives. As Tulsi said, we need to reach out with love to the people on the other side who are asleep and who are too frightened and too panicked and too controlled to understand what they are losing. And we need to protect those things until they wake up. And I had a conversation once with Charlie where we were talking about the danger that we both face from challenging entrenched interests. And he asked me if I was scared to die. And I said to him, there's a lot worse things than dying. And one of those, the chief among those is losing our constitutional rights and having our children raised in slavery. And I said to him at that time, I said, sometimes our only consolation is that we can die with our boots on. We can die fighting for these things. And Charlie gave his life so that the rest of us would not have to suffer those fates worse than death. Now it's our job. He's no longer there to lead us. To rush in and fill the breach and win this battle for our country, for God, and for our families. Thank you.
Very amazing, very powerful. And God bless America. God bless RFK Jr. for everything that he is doing to heal this country in more ways than one, to make America truly healthy again. Whew. Well, we're nearing the end here. So I am just going to play a little bit of Trump gaggling with the press. I think this is pretty good. Always fun to see Trump in his element. But a lot of things struck me with RFK Jr., but I'm still shocked that I did not realize how Charlie Kirk's role in bringing MAGA and MAGA together. It's a big deal. It's a really big deal.
Here we go, waiting on this, the president before he departs for the UK.
Or too late getting his race down again. Who knows? You never know with too late, but he's done a lousy job. The race should be much slower, much slower. But I just signed his document and all of the papers, and Steve Byron is now on.
The Federal Reserve round of fences is now underway in Gaza City. Your reaction to
So we're going to see what happens because I hear Hamas is trying to use the old human shield deal, and if they do that, they're going to be in big trouble. They're going to be in big trouble. They put it out 2 days ago that they're going to use the hostages as human shields. That's something that hasn't done for a long time, you know.
Let me
tell you, if they do that, they're in big trouble.
On the Federal Reserve, who do you believe the Federal Reserve is an independent body? What do you think about the independent?
Oh, it should be, but I think they should listen to smart people like me. I think I have a better instinct than him. If you look, all the economists got it wrong. I got it right along with one other people out of 100. So they should listen to people that are smart. Nothing wrong with that. But they have to make their own choice. But they should listen.
Before the invasion, did you speak to Prime Minister Netanyahu?
No, I didn't.
What about the idea of Israel beginning this ground offensive in Gaza City? Do you support that?
Well, I have to see. I mean, I don't know too much about it. I can tell you that if they put the hostages in front of them, Hamas, as protection, as they call them bodyguards, Hamas is going to have hell to pay.
Your trip to the UK today, what do you hope to achieve?
Well, my relationship is very good with the UK, and Charles, as you know, who's now king, is my friend. And it's the first time this has ever happened where somebody was honored twice, so it's a great honor. And this one's at Windsor. They've never used Windsor Castle for this before. They used Buckingham Palace. And I don't want to say one's better than the other, but they say Windsor Castle is the ultimate, right? So it's going to be nice. But basically, I'm there also on trade. They want to see if they can refine the trade deal a little bit. We made a deal, and it's a great deal. And I'm into helping them. Our country is doing very well. We've never done this well. We're having trillions of dollars coming because of the tariffs. And they'd like to see if they could get a little bit better deal. So we'll talk to them. But primarily it's to be with Prince Charles and Camilla. They're friends of mine for a long time, long before he was king. And it's an honor to have him as king. And, you know, I think he represents the country so well. I've watched. He's such an elegant gentleman, and he represents the country so well.
Are you going to delay TikTok?
Actor Robert Redford passed away today. Did you hear about that?
Wow.
Apparently in his sleep at his home.
Well, that's a good way to go, I guess. But I'll say Robert Redford was great. He had a series of years that there was nobody better. This just happened, I guess. Huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
He died in Utah in his sleep.
Yeah.
And what movie would you say you liked the best in?
Well, you have a lot of them. Honestly, I'd say he made 7 or 8 great movies. They were really great. There was a period of time when he was the hottest. I thought he was great.
On TikTok. Well, TikTok goes dark. Are you going to delay the TikTok ban?
Well, we have a deal on TikTok. I've reached a deal with China. I'm going to speak to President Xi on Friday to confirm everything up. We made a very good trade deal, and I hope good for both countries, but a very different deal than they've made in the past.
What companies are involved? What companies are going to buy
We'll be
it?
announcing that. We have a group of very big companies that want to buy it. And, the kids wanted it so badly. I had parents calling me up. They don't want it for themselves. They want it for their kids. They say, if I don't get it done, they're in big trouble with their kids. And I think it's great. I hate to see value like that thrown out the window.
So on auto executives,
you're talking about tens of billions of dollars.
Some auto executives are concerned that compromising the 15% for auto tariffs coming in hurts American automakers. What do you say to?
Well, I haven't compromised anything. Where did I compromise?
Going down to 15% from
going
25.
down to 15%. We charge well. And where does the 25 come from? It came from there. You tell me. Just so you know, they paid nothing for years. Now they're paying 15%. And some things can pay more, like chips could pay more. Pharmaceuticals could pay more. There's a bigger margin. With a car, you have to make 15% before you make a profit. It's pretty tough. So we had a big deal. Don't forget, European Union is paying our country because of tariffs $950 billion. Think of that. We're talking about a year. $950 billion. Japan is paying us $650 billion. These are countries that paid us nothing until I came along. And China's paying us a tremendous tariff. You know what the tariff is, right? You know what the tariff they're paying is? What?
Yes, so it's 30% for the fentanyl as well as whatever for the 301.
20% for the fentanyl. But the overall is about 55%. Okay? That's as opposed to nothing. Would you say that's a difference? We have a big decision coming up, and if the Supreme Court rules the way hopefully they will, because every legal expert said we win that case, but you still have to watch. And the Supreme Court's been terrific. I think they're very fair. All I want is fairness, then we win. But if we win the Supreme Court case, which is the finalization of tariffs, we will be by far the richest country anywhere in the world, and we'll be able to help our people more, and we'll be able to help other countries when we want to. But I will say, if we win that case,
Trump can just go on and on and on and speak without any stop at all. I want to see what's going on with Cash.
This is an oversight hearing. This is germane to your integrity and credibility. You know right now whether or not you testified that President Trump declassified the documents at issue in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. Why are you refusing to answer that simple yes or no question right now?
Because the premise of your question is inaccurate, and
there is no premise to my question, but trying to get to an order of what is truth or not.
How do you How do you know what was asked in the grand jury if you weren't there?
Mr. President, this is a mockery you're making of this hearing and simple questions.
It's a simple question. If you have
Mr.
a
Patel,
transcript,
during
you can
your
read the question,
nomination,
but you don't have it.
You promised that, quote, all FBI employees will be protected against political retribution. When I asked you, are you aware of any plans or discussions to punish in any way, including termination, FBI agents or personnel associated with the Trump administration, you explicitly said under oath that you were not aware of any plans to punish FBI agents associated with criminal investigations of Donald Trump. I don't believe you were truthful. Firing FBI employees based solely on the cases that they are investigating, their case assignments, is illegal, and you know that. A new lawsuit that's been discussed numerous times, filed by 3 FBI officials, alleges that you carried out Donald Trump's campaign of retribution, in quotes, against FBI employees for, quote, failure to demonstrate sufficient political loyalty. One of those plaintiffs has been discussed today, Brian Driscoll. Now, we know 20 years of distinguished service to the FBI before you terminated him. Special agent in charge of FBI's Newark field office, where he operated with distinction. Medal of Valor winner, Shield of Bravery awards. He's a patriot. You terminated Driscoll via a letter dated October 8th, 2025. And in that letter, you said that you were firing him pursuant to Article 2 of the Constitution. Well, you're not the President of the United States. And so I'm wondering under what authority you were allowed to terminate him.
That matter is under litigation, and I'm not able to discuss it.
Okay, well, discuss this. Did you have discussions with Stephen Miller about firing this particular person or about his continuance in the FBI?
Not that I recall.
How often do you speak to Stephen Miller?
Frequently on our Homeland Security task forces.
You frequently talk with Stephen Miller about subjects other than Homeland Security task force issues, correct?
I frequently talk to Mr. Miller about Homeland Security task forces.
Has Stephen Miller ever given you his opinions on how to run your agency?
Mr. Miller's interagency operations are invaluable to success of the FBI. That's what we talk about.
So you frequently discuss your job and your responsibilities with Stephen Miller and Pam Bondi, I imagine, as well.
Absolutely. She's the Attorney General.
Understood. Okay. Donald Trump promised to make us all safer. You have pushed out senior FBI agents with decades of knowledge and experience. In fact, this is the first time in FBI history that neither the director nor the deputy director have any experience with the FBI. You've shifted the agency's priorities primarily to pursuing Donald Trump's immigration enforcement agenda. According to ICE data, the Cato Institute, which is a conservative think tank, found that 20% of all agents have been diverted from their work to assist ICE immigration enforcement. 20%. Part of this operation is the work of mass law enforcement who jump out of cars, snatch people off streets at churches, schools, and their jobs and hospitals.
Man, these people.
Have there been any FBI agents who investigate crimes against children that have been assigned to immigration enforcement, yes or no?
The premise of what you say is entirely false.
Have there been any FBI agents who investigate
no.
foreign domestic terrorism?
You don't get to say the America is not safer under this leadership.
I am not saying
America
that.
is safer because of the work of the FBI.
You're making a presumption of premise.
4,700 children.
Sir,
we have seized 6,000 weapons and 23,000 violent felons have been
FBI
arrested.
Agents who investigate human trafficking have been reassigned to immigration enforcement. You are not denying that FBI agents who are on the task force that fight against Russian oligarchs have not been reassigned. Public Correction Squad reassigned. People who defend us, defend children reassigned. You're not denying that. I've seen you time and time again attack my colleagues' premises of questions as a way to not answer the question. So let me end with this. I believe you have made our country weaker and less safe. I believe that we are more vulnerable to a major event, and I pray to God it doesn't happen. You've gutted the Bureau of Institutional Knowledge and Expertise. You fired or pushed out seasoned FBI officials, many with more than 20 years of experience, and were working on cases that were critical. You've been purging thousands of serious law enforcement officials who spent their careers keeping us safe, only to lower hiring standards in order to find anyone to replace them. And shockingly, you admitted in this hearing to Senator Coons that it would take 14 years to fill the vacancies at your agency. Many are the result of your purge. 20% of FBI agents are doing low-level immigration enforcement instead of their mission-critical work. You've disbanded entire task forces that stop election interference, foreign influence, public corruption. And who benefits from this? Well, corrupt people benefit from it. Criminals benefit from it. Vladimir Putin benefits from it. And it really makes me wonder who you're looking out for. It makes me think we can't trust you as a nation. You swear to release the Epstein files, but now you're withholding the Epstein files. You claim that you have a suspect in a serious assassination. Whoops, then you don't have a suspect. You know nothing about plans to remove FBI agents, yet you're directly involved in those plans. In the words of an ex-FBI official, you are overseeing, and I quote, generational destruction of the nation's premier law enforcement agency. Mr. Patel, in just 8 months, you have assaulted the institutional integrity of the FBI. But I know FBI field agents. I've worked with them in Newark. No matter how truly bad you are, you can't undermine the legacy of agents who fight every day to keep us safe, but you can tarnish the integrity of the agency and undermine the agency's capacity. I believe you're failing as a leader, and that your failure does have serious implications for the safety and security of Americans and our families. We're more vulnerable to domestic and foreign attack because of your failures of leadership. I don't think you're fit to hand the bureau, but here's the thing, Mr. Patel. I think you're not going to be around long. I think this might be your last oversight hearing, because as much as you supplicate yourself to the will of Donald Trump and not the Constitution of the United States of America, Donald Trump has shown us in his first term and in this term, he is not loyal to people like you. He will cut you loose. This may be the last time I have a hearing with you, because I don't think you're long for your job.
Great.
But I'm going to tell you this.
You ain't going nowhere.
I pray for you. I pray for you.
Pray for you.
That you can step up and defend your oath, defend the Constitution, and do a much better job
Oh boy.
defending this country.
I don't know how Cash can sit there so calmly and deal with this nonsense.
Yes, sir. That rant of false information does not bring this country together. If you want to work on bringing this country, it's my time, not yours.
My God.
If you want to talk about
dividing this country,
it is
I
my
follow
time.
you on your social media posts that
It is
tear
my
this country
time
apart.
to
There
address
should be a
your
unifying-
falsehoods.
Oh,
You are an
you can try
embarrassment
all
to the
you
division
want
in this
to
country.
not take
It is my
responsibility
time.
for what
You
you
had
have
your
said.
time.
Sir, you're
Your
making
time
a
is
mockery of this
over.
committee. Sir, you don't tell me my time is over.
You
The
know how
people
far
of New
we
Jersey
have
tell
come
me what
since
my
you
time is. You can't lecture me.
You can tell me
Sir,
my time's over.
You may be the charge of the
I'm not
FBI,
going anywhere.
but I am not afraid of you.
Mr. Chairman,
Not afraid of you.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Senator Booker, I announced at the beginning of this meeting that this back and forth talking over each other doesn't work. And I said, if that happened, I asked Patel not to respond, and I was going to give him some time after the senator's time was up to respond. And he has the privilege to do that uninterrupted.
Mr.
So
Chairman, one point of
go
order.
ahead,
Uninterrupted.
Mr.
I've watched
Patel.
him talk over us, and you've never once criticized him for us not even being able to get our questions out.
Well,
He has been rude and disrespectful to senator after senator.
And when the senators were not giving him a chance to answer,
Yeah.
I didn't stop the senator either.
There you
Go
go.
ahead, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If the FBI, under my 7-month leadership, were failing this administration in this country, why do we have 23,000 violent felons arrested this year alone? A double increase from that time last year. Why is it that we have seized 6,000 weapons? Why have we found 1,500 child predators and arrest them? Why have we have 300 human traffickers in jail? Why have we found and identified 4,700 children? Why have we seized 1,600 kilograms of fentanyl in enough to kill a third of the American public, a 25% increase alone from last year, 88,000 kilograms of cocaine seized, 7,000 kilograms of meth seized, and that's just on our criminal operations in summer heat. How is it possible that we're taking 8 kilograms off the streets of the cities in New Jersey and preventing the deaths of 607,000 people this year alone, a failure of the FBI and my leadership? How is it that we have counterintelligence arrests already this year exceeding the numbers from the entirety of last year? 33% increase in PRC, 83% in Russia, 60% in the CI space as it relates to Iran, and we haven't even talked about CT, the southern border, the northern border.
Before Senator Cruz, I kind of feel like a broken record today. All this interest in FBI termination, yet my colleagues showed no intent or interest in when my whistleblowers suffered retaliation over the past years, particularly the past 4 years. Indeed, one whistleblower has alleged that Brian Driscoll's insubordination, whether an agent is on a hot button case or not, they ought to be held accountable for misconduct and weaponization. Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I have to say, it used to be that to see theater, you had to go to the Kennedy Center. Now, apparently, you need only go to the Senate Judiciary Committee. and see our Senate Democrats berating the director of the FBI.
Good stuff there.
Okay, it's not.
All right.
Partisan politics is not
To
new.
end this, I'd say we end it the way we began it, with a little bit of Charlie Kirk here. This is the full RFK Jr. interview right here, or most of it. I'll see how far we get for a lot of it.
Welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show. Joining us now is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., our great Health and Human Services Secretary. Bobby, thank you so much for being here. And one of the things that I always took from Charlie was this idea that we needed to grow the coalition and expand the coalition. There's probably no person in the entire administration who better exemplifies that than you, one of the leading consumer advocates, health advocates that exists in our country, but until a few years ago, more aligned. Given your name, you were a scion of one of the great political families on the Democratic side in American history. But now you're one of the most important members of the administration in a Republican administration. Maybe talk, if you would, just a little bit about Charlie's approach to politics and how it ultimately made you one of the most important people in the federal government.
Yeah, well, Charlie was probably the primary architect of my unification with President Trump. I actually announced my endorsement of President Trump at a Turning Point rally in Arizona, which was his idea. And he was, for people who were there, remember it, there was all these kind of fireworks and sparklers on the stage when we shook hands, and that was all Charlie's orchestration. That was his idea, and he insisted on that. But I first met Charlie in July of 2021. I had just written a book about Anthony Fauci, and he had me on his show for this very, very wide-ranging interview in which he really let me talk a lot, which was unusual at that time because I was not allowed to talk on most outlets.
Sure.
And I think both of us approached each other with some trepidation because we came from such different places. By the end of that interview, I felt like I'd met a spiritual soulmate, and our friendship blossomed after that. And even during the campaign, when he was strongly supporting President Trump, we always had a communication and outreach. And then after I made the endorsement, I saw him all the time, and he helped me a lot during the transition.
Yep.
As did you, as did Tucker. And helped a lot. Amaryllis, who's my daughter-in-law, he really kind of pushed her a lot to get the job that she has today. So, the thing that united us was his total commitment to free speech. And now it had been a theme of my campaign. I had been subject to censorship like so many other people during COVID, and saw the threat that it was to our country, so that once they understood, they could censor us. And Charlie and I talked about this that the founders put the freedom of speech in the First Amendment because they knew all the other rights depended on it. If a government can silence its opponents, it has a license for any kind of atrocity. And as soon as they realized that we were going to put up with that, they went after freedom of assembly, which is the First Amendment, with social distancing regulations. They went after freedom of religion, closing all the churches in this country, which is extraordinary. It's extraordinary that we let get away with that. And by the way, they kept the liquor stores open as essential businesses. They went after the Fifth Amendment. They shut all of our businesses, 3.5 million businesses with no due process, no just compensation. They went after the Seventh Amendment right to jury trial. Seventh Amendment says no American shall be denied the right of a trial before a jury of his peers. In case there are controversies exceeding $25, there's no pandemic exception. And yet they were able to give these broad categories of industry, these exemptions from any litigation, no matter how much they hurt you. They went after the Fourth Amendment prohibitions against warrantless searches and seizures by making us disclose our medical information. So the entire Constitution came under attack as soon as they realized that they could go after free speech.
So we have 80 seconds left on radio, and then we'll continue streaming for the folks who are watching live on the internet and other platforms. But to talk to me just a little bit about Charlie's influence and actually politically getting you to be the H&HS secretary, because I remember he was such a strong advocate for you. He was so proud of the president and of you when the president nominated you. Obviously, like all of our big nominees, there was a tough confirmation fight. Just give us 50 seconds on how important he was to making you have the position and the title you have right now.
Well, you know what the transition is like. You never kind of know what's going to happen. And he was a critical ally for me in calling President Trump. And at first, when President Trump asked me whether I wanted this job, I was tentative. I didn't know whether I wanted to handle a Medicaid and Medicare portion, which is the biggest, economic behemoth.
Sure.
And he really persuaded me that I should do it. And then he helped me not only making calls to the president himself, but telling me people that I should call, operating strategically. But I'll just say one other thing before we sign.
Let me pause there, Bobby. This will continue on streaming. But for those listening on radio, I want to thank the secretary. And again, we'll keep on going for another few minutes off the radio, but appreciate it.
Thank you.
And now that we're, I guess, off radio, keep talking about this piece of it, because
I think
he was strategically brilliant, and he was a good political operator in a way that I think so many people don't realize.
Yeah, he was. He was an impresario strategist, and he knew exactly. He did the same thing with Amaryllis. He told her, make this phone call, make this phone call, make this one first, this one second.
Yep.
And he knew exactly, he understood the uses of power, and he understood what buttons needed to be pushed to move the ball across the goal line. So he was very good on that. But so he was a pragmatist, but he was also one of the most idealistic people that I've ever met.
He was.
And his principal preoccupation was with conversation. He thought conversation was the only thing that could heal our country. We have all these forces, and particularly the algorithms now in social media, that are driving us apart. And it's inexorable. There seems to be nothing that could stop it. And he understood that the only thing that could bridge that gap was debate, was open debate, and that censorship was the enemy of that. And that in order to have real conversations, we had to end the vitriol. We had to stop being poisonous toward each other. We need to say what we mean without saying it mean.
Yes.
And he was just amazing. He was so respectful of the people who disagreed with him. He gave them the most respect and the greatest hearing. He wanted their voices to be heard. I saw on one of the networks just now that there's this big revolt against social media because of their contribution to the polarization that ultimately led to his death, this brewing up of hatred. Ironically, I think Charlie would revolt against that.
Yes.
Because he hated censorship.
Yes.
What he said is the answer is conversation and dialogue. And we need to learn to do that if our democracy is going to survive. If we're going to survive, we need to talk to each other, even though all these things are telling us not to.
Yeah, so I talked to Charlie. It was either the night of or the day after our debate with Tim Walz. And, he was excited. He told me how great I did. And obviously it's awesome to hear from a friend who tells you that you did a great job. But he asked what I thought of Tim. And I said, honestly, because you get in this sort of bunker mentality in the campaign, it's us versus them. And I was like, honestly, even though I'm glad that I think I did well, and I certainly don't want this guy to become vice president, I actually kind of liked him afterwards, after 90 minutes of talking with him. And Charlie said, that's why I do all these debates. Is like you can disagree vehemently with somebody, but if you're actually communicating with them, it's really hard not to appreciate at least a little bit as a human being. Even if you think they're 100% wrong on the issues, you can appreciate them a little bit as a human being. And that's what Charlie was so good at. So with all respect to you and all gratitude for being such a big part of his life the last couple of years.
That's very
Bobby, good to see you.
That is a very, very powerful.
You too, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you.
And that's hard sometimes. It's hard to just to do that. We need more of that in this world. I need to learn to get better at that too, because I'm not very good at that. Talking with people, especially just because, I spent so many years just arguing and arguing. It's like, man, I'm almost 50 years old. I don't want to be arguing anymore. What's that going to do? So when it's a conversation, that's great. When it turns to argument or it gets heated or something like that, that's when you have to know when to step away from it. But I totally agree that there's nothing wrong with trying to have the argument, starting the conversation, and not having an argument. When it gets to an argument, then okay, it's time to end it. Not helping anybody, not progressing anything, and we just go our separate ways. So live and learn. Definitely lived and definitely learning. And I am a work in progress. I want to say God bless you all. I am just going to end this the way that I initially began this, with a little promo for the book. Still waiting for the worldwide global distribution from lulu.com so I can get the book Kennedy and Trump on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, everywhere else. And I may just have to go find another company. I don't know what the holdup is. I don't know what the big issue is. You can go to lulu.com right now and you can order it. But I really want, for those people that, want to buy it on Lulu or buy it on Amazon, and it's just going to reach a lot more people by just having it there. Even if they don't purchase it there, the book could potentially reach a lot more people. But I think it's one of those books that's just going to age like fine wine. You can also get it for free right now too, at any time that you like. You can download it for free right now. And hopefully I will be doing some trade shows or doing something where I set up a little booth and sell the book or pass out the book, and maybe even try to engage with some people about the contents in the book or about Kennedy and Trump. I think it could be fun. It could be a great opportunity to try to re-engage with people and try to have some meaningful civil conversations about the state of our nation. All right, God bless you all. Until then, remember, Jesus Christ loves you, and so do I. The story of Kennedy and Trump has changed the course of history forever. August 23rd, 2024 will forever be known as the day we turned the corner and took back our great nation and changed the course of history and brought hope to a free world. Join me as we relive the strange relationship between Kennedy and Trump, leading to their return to the White House to make America healthy and great again. I spent 2 years following the Kennedy and Trump campaigns. Long before the two men ever considered running for president, Kennedy sued Trump and stopped him from building a golf course near the Hudson River. After Trump won the presidency in 2016, he recruited Kennedy to look into vaccine safety issues. Kennedy was forced out the door after clashing with a man by the name of Anthony Fauci. But the assassination attempt on President Trump's life brought Kennedy and Trump closer than ever. From rivals to collaborators, from foes to friends, this is a story of Kennedy and Trump. You can download the book for free right now by going to kennedy&trump.com. That's kennedy&trump.com. My name is Greg Fernandez Jr. God bless you all.